May 20th, 1943. WWII airstrip, New Guinea. The sun hasn't even cleared the Guinea grass, and already the air feels heavy enough to drown in. Lieutenant Thomas Tommy Lynch stands alone beside his P-47 Thunderbolt, boots sinking into the damp red mud, staring at a machine that looks more like battlefield wreckage than a frontline fighter. Mosquitoes swarm his sweat-soaked flight cap. A thin breath of steam rises from the fuselage morning heat meeting yesterday's metal. The jungle is still except for distant artillery rumbles and the occasional scream of a cockatoo disappearing into the canopy. Lynch wipes a line of grime across his cheek with the back of his hand. He's been up all night, wrench in one fist, flashlight in the other. Because if he doesn't fix this aircraft, he knows what will be waiting in the sky. The Zero, fast, nimble, deadly, a predator that has shredded more P-47s in this theater than any pilot cares to admit. And tomorrow morning, Lynch is scheduled to fly escort again. A small group of ground crew wander toward him, tired men in stained tank tops and oil-darkened boots. They've never seen a Thunderbolt look quite like this. The armor plate removed, the radios pulled out, half the interior stripped bare, and the engine cowling lie in the mud like shed skin. Tools are scattered everywhere, screwdrivers, pry bars, broken bolts abandoned in a frenzy of a midnight operation. One mechanic squints at the gutted aircraft. "Sir, this thing's never gonna fly." Lynch doesn't look away from the engine. "She'll fly," he mutters. "She has to." He reaches into the open cowl, hands shaking from fatigue. The P-47's are 2800 double Wasp engine is a monster 2,000 horsepower of pure American muscle, but it's temperamental, and every ounce of unnecessary weight slows it down. In the clean, dry hangars of the States, it's a marvel. Out here in New Guinea, it's a liability, especially against the Zero. Lynch has replayed the last mission in his mind again and again. The moment he banked hard to escape a pair of A-6M fighters diving in from his blind spot. The sickening feeling as his Thunderbolt refused to climb fast enough. The sudden glimpse of tracer fire slicing past his canopy. The smell of burning oil. The radio crackling with the screams of another pilot who didn't make it home. He remembers turning back toward base in silence, the jungle stretching endlessly below. That's when the idea struck him, half desperation, half madness. If the Thunderbolt couldn't outrun the Zero as it was, then he would make a Thunderbolt that could. By ripping out everything that wasn't essential, he could reduce the Jug's weight by hundreds of pounds. No armor plate, no heavy radios, even the auxiliary fuel tank on. A featherweight P-47, a stripped-down beast. A version of the Jug no engineer in America ever designed or approved. But here, in the heat and mud of New Guinea, there is no engineering manual. Just survive. A sudden drone of distant engines makes the ground crew freeze. Not Thunderbolts. Not Warhawks. Something lighter. Higher pitched. Japanese. Zeros. Lynch shuts his eyes. Too late to turn back now. He reaches deeper into the engine, twisting the final wire into place with trembling fingers. Sparks flicker tiny, angry, insistent, and for a moment the men around him hold their breath, waiting for something to go wrong. But nothing does. Lynch steps back. The engine sits silent, but ready. His vision swims from exhaustion, but there's a fire behind his eyes now. A gamble, a dangerous one. A necessary one, because tomorrow morning, that modified Thunderbolt, the featherweight Jug, will either save him or get him killed. And somewhere in the jungle sky, Zero pilots will soon witness something they never expected from an American fighter. Something impossible. Something fast. Lynch wipes his hands on his trousers, turns toward the cockpit, and climbs the ladder one slow, determined step at a time. He's about to find out if his midnight experiment has any chance of surviving the next dogfight. But first, it has to start. The propeller blades are still. The cockpit smells of fuel, sweat, and metal heated by the sun. Lynch settles into his seat, the parachute straps digging into his shoulders, every muscle stiff from a night without sleep. His hands hover over the start switches, trembling part fatigue, part dread. If he miswired even a single line, the engine might not start at all. Or worse, it might explode. Outside, the mechanics scatter back, giving him space. No one is talking now. Lynch flips the master switch. A click, a low hum, then silence for a heartbeat. He wonders if he's pushed the Thunderbolt too far, if ripping out half its guts was the moment his luck finally ran out. He glances at the jungle line, dense and shadowed, the place where shot-down pilots vanish without a sound, where the Zero pilots rule the sky. He tries again. A cough, a sputter, a loud metallic groan deep inside the engine, like something waking from a long sleep. You can almost feel the air change as a spark catches, then another, then boom, 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 boom. The double wasp roars to life with a violent, shaking fury. Dust billows around the Thunderbolt, swirling like a miniature storm. Lynch's headset vibrates as the cockpit trembles. The entire airstrip seems to hum with the engine's raw, angry energy. One mechanic laughs in disbelief. Another shouts, "Holy hell, she's alive." But Lynch doesn't celebrate yet. He watches the gauges through narrowed eyes, oil pressure rising, RPM stabilizing, temperature climbing into the green. Every needle is a lifeline, every sound a clue. The engine settles into a deep, throaty rumble that feels different, lighter, hungrier, like the beast wants to leap into the air. Lynch guns the throttle slightly. The P-47 jerks forward, lighter on its wheels than it's ever been. The missing armor plate, the missing radios, the stripped interior. Each subtraction adds a strange, dangerous agility to the massive fighter. He taxis toward the end of the airstrip, little more than a packed dirt path hacked from the jungle. Palm trunks line the edges. A single misstep, a single mechanical failure, and he'll plow into the trees at 120 miles an hour. Lynch pulls the canopy, close the metal slides shut with a hollow clack. All around him, the world narrows to a rectangle of plexiglass in the engine's relentless roar. Sweat rolls into his eyes. The tropical humidity turns the cockpit into an oven. He pushes the throttle forward. The P-47 surges. Hard, harder than it ever has before. The sudden acceleration kicks the breath from his lungs. The wheels bounce over dips in the airstrip, then bite into the dirt again. The jungle blurs at the edges of his vision. He holds her straight, feet dancing on the rudder pedals, fighting the uneven ground. The airspeed climbs, 60, 80, 100. A low warning buzzes in his skull. Not a mechanical alarm, just instinct. He's reaching the point of no return. Either the jug lifts or it dies here. Lynch pulls gently on the stick. For an agonizing moment, nothing happens. Then the weight falls away. The Thunderbolt rips off the runway, wheels dangling, still shaking from the uneven ground. Lynch hauls the landing gear lever. The wheels fold into the wings like enormous steel fists. And then, the P-47 begins to climb. Not the sluggish, heavy climb he's used to. Not the slow lumber of a fully armored jug. This is something else. Something shocking. The aircraft leaps upward, biting into the sky with a vicious, newfound hunger. Lynch's eyes widen. He pulls harder. The altimeter spins. A laugh escapes him, raw and disbelieving. It worked. It actually worked. Below him, the mechanics look like tiny dots, cheering and waving hats over their heads. Even from here, Lynch can sense their shock. He banks hard left. The Thunderbolt obeys instantly, rolling faster than he thought possible. The wings cut through moist morning air, leaving shimmering trails of condensation. And as he climbs higher and higher, the distant thrum of engines reaches him again. Not friendly, not American. Zeros, a half-squadron emerging from the eastern haze, sunlight catching their wings as they fan out in a predatory formation. Lynch levels his wings, heart pounding. Time for the real test. Can the featherweight jug escape the aircraft that once outran it every time? He pushes the throttle to military power, and the Thunderbolt answers like it's been waiting for this moment. The moment Lynch spots the Zeros glittering in the morning sun, the air inside the cockpit feels colder. There are 6 of them, maybe more, fanning out in a loose V formation, silhouettes sharp against the pale sky. Their engines whine like hornets closing in on prey. And for months, the pattern has been the same. Zeros dive, Thunderbolts run, and often don't make it. But today is different. Today, Lynch has a machine no one on this island, American or Japanese, has ever seen before. He angles the jug upward, testing its new claws. The stripped-down P-47 responds instantly, climbing so sharply the G-forces tug at his vision. The needles flicker. The engine screams. Sweat slides down his ribs. Behind him, one Zero breaks formation and dives. Then another, and another. The Japanese pilots know this lumbering American brute well, heavy, slow to climb, deadly only in a straight dive. They expect Lynch to do what Thunderbolts always do when jumped from above. Run for the deck. Try to outrun the Zeros horizontally. Pray the armor holds. But this jug has no armor, and Lynch has no intention of running. He slams the throttle forward. The double wasp detonates into a violent, bone-rattling roar. The airspeed jumps. The altimeter spins upward like a metronome gone mad. The Zeros begin their attack run sleek, surgical, confident. Then something happens that none of them expect. The distance doesn't close. It widens. The featherweight jug is climbing faster than the Zeros can dive. For the first time in this war, Lynch watches the Predators hesitate. One Zero pilot, Lieutenant Kenji Hashimoto, narrows his eyes behind his goggles. He knows the Thunderbolt. He knows its limits. He knows exactly how it should behave. But this one isn't behaving. He tries to pull the lead. He can't. Lynch feels the P-47 surge again, clean, furious, impossibly light. Every ounce of armor removed is now working in his favor. The airframe shrieks as the altitude climbs past 12,000 feet. The engine temperature creeps upward, but holds. He glances back over his shoulder. The Zeros are smaller now, confused, wavering. He banks hard left so hard the cockpit rattles. The Thunderbolt rolls with an agility he's never felt before, not even in training. The jungle, mountains, and coastline revolve in a blur beneath him. A Zero tries to follow the maneuver, fails, slides wide. Lynch pulls his nose through the turn and dives for a heartbeat, just enough to sling the jug into a perfect firing angle. The Zero flashes across his gun sight. He squeezes the trigger. BRRRT, BRRRT, BRRRT. 8.50 caliber Browning machine guns erupt. Tracers stitch across the sky. The Zero jerks, belches smoke, and spins downward, trailing a thin black spiral. Lynch doesn't watch it hit the trees. He doesn't have time. Another Zero is already diving on him. But for the first time, Lynch isn't hunted. Not today. He yanks the stick back. The jug climbs again harder than any P-47 should be able to. The Zero overshoots and flashes beneath him, pilot stunned. Lynch rolls over the top and locks onto its tail. The sky becomes a blur of motion, turning, rolling, climbing, snapping into dives, the world spinning on a chaotic axis. His breathing becomes sharp and shallow. His gloves slip on the throttle from sweat. But the Thunderbolt, this Thunderbolt, feels alive, faster, sharper, meaner. Every maneuver shocks even him. The Zeros attempt one last coordinated attack, with 3 planes converging on his position. Lynch dives, the double wasp howling, then pulls into a climb so violent his vision pulses black at the edges. He breaks through the top, and suddenly, he's alone. The Zeros spiral below him, unable to follow the impossible climb. Their tight formation collapses into confusion. Pilots shouting into radios, each realizing the same horrifying truth. The American fighter, once their prey, has outrun them. Lynch circles high above the chaos, chest heaving. For a moment, there is only the hum of the engine and the emptiness of the sky. Then a thought hits him like a punch. If the featherweight jug can do this, what else can it do? He tightens his harness, eyes narrowing at the Zeros struggling beneath him. He's not done. Not yet. Lynch levels out at 18,000 feet, the air thin and cold enough to sting his lungs. Below him, the Zeros scatter like startled birds, some diving for the safety of cloud cover, others circling in bewilderment, trying to understand what they just witnessed. Because nothing about this fight makes sense to them. The Thunderbolt should be wallowing by now, choking on its own weight, struggling to climb, begging for mercy. But instead, it's soaring above them like a predator with new wings. Lynch takes a long breath. The adrenaline is beginning to slip, replaced by a strange, floating calm. He scans the sky, checking angles, altitudes, the reflective glint of sunlight off aluminum. He's clear. For the first time in weeks, he's safe up here. He turns the jug toward base. The flight home is quiet, eerily quiet. The jungle rolls beneath him in endless green waves, shadowed valleys, waterfalls cutting through the mountains like silver scars. Smoke rises from distant firefights. The war churns on, oblivious to the miracle that just unfolded above the canopy. And Lynch can't stop thinking about one thing. What will the others say when they see this aircraft? When he touches down at WWII, dust explodes around the wheels. The P-47 rattles across the rough strip and rolls to a stop near the palm frond shelters. Crews jog out. A few pilots watch from a distance, arms folded, faces tight with curiosity. Lynch pops the canopy and climbs out. He feels light, almost weightless, like the plane passed its impossible speed into him. One of the mechanics, sweat pouring down his neck, jogs over. Well, he's grinning. Was it suicide or genius? Lynch drops from the wing with a thud, boots sinking into the dirt. He wipes the sweat from his forehead. It climbs, he says simply. Then, with a shake of his head, it doesn't just climb. It leaves the Zeros behind. A silence falls around him. The mechanics stare at the hacked-together aircraft as though seeing it for the first time. Stripped, scarred, improvised, but faster than anything the Japanese put in the sky. Word spreads across the airstrip like wildfire. Pilots who had given up hope on matching the Zero's agility gather around the featherweight jug, touching the bare interior, inspecting the missing armor, tracing the wires Lynch rerouted by hand. Some laugh in disbelief. Others shake their heads, whispering that command will never approve this, but they can't deny the results. And soon a group of officers strides across the airfield, boots kicking dust. Their expressions flicker between frustration and intrigue. Regulations matter. Safety matters. Uniformity matters. But survival matters more. Major Donald Hall, the squadron commander, circles the Thunderbolt slowly, eyes traveling over every strip panel, every missing plate, every exposed bolt. He looks at Lynch. You actually outran them? Lynch nods. Climbed right past him. They couldn't follow. Hall exhales through his teeth, a sound halfway between disbelief and awe. This is insane, he mutters. Then he looks at the plane again. Insane and brilliant. Behind him, more pilots gather, young men with sunburned faces and exhausted eyes. Men who've buried friends. Men who've lost fights they felt they should have won. And suddenly, the featherweight jug isn't just a crazy experiment. It's hope. A new idea begins to circulate among the squadron. If one pilot can do this, what could a whole unit do? Lynch sits on an ammo crate, helmet dangling from his hand, sweat drying on his neck. He doesn't speak yet. He just watches the crowd grow around the plane that was supposed to die in the jungle. He never thought the modification would matter to anyone else. He certainly never thought it would be replicated. But over the next days and weeks, without official approval, without manuals, without factories, other pilots begin stripping their Thunderbolts too. Each one a little different, each a little riskier, each a gamble in a war made of gambles. And Japanese pilots begin reporting sightings of something strange, something impossible. A P-47 that climbs like nothing they've seen. A Thunderbolt they cannot outrun. A heavy American fighter that suddenly behaves like a Zero's twisted reflection. Word spreads among Japanese units the same way it spread at WWII. There's a new jug in the sky, and it is terrifying. Lynch's experiment, born from desperation on a hot, lonely night in the jungle, becomes a legend whispered across the Pacific, a symbol of the simple, stubborn truth that often decides wars. When you take everything away, comfort, safety, support, rules, what remains is innovation. And sometimes that innovation flies.